How hard it is to set aside terror, concupiscence, and pride. Learn who and where and how we are, the children of a modest star. Frail backward, cling to the granite skirts of a sensible old planet. Our placid and suburban nurse insiders swelling universe. How hard to stretch imagination to live according to our station. Okay.
So, I remember you found the poem. Were you just reading Auden in the middle? I don't even know why you encountered this.
Yeah, Auden is probably my favorite poet, so I've read tons of his stuff. I had actually bought like an anthology of his collected writings, and I was just reading through it. And yeah, the poem is something, it's super long. Actually, I remember when I introduced it to you, you read the whole thing, and you found like parts of it that we were going to use for an epigram for every chapter originally. So there's so many pieces of it. And the reason why that worked so well for us is actually the poem comes in 3 parts, and it kind of mirrors the 3 parts of our book. Mm-hmm. The first part of the poem is really about contemporary politics in Europe in the late 1930s and early 1940s. Obviously, a war is breaking out. The nation-state system is producing all sorts of terrible things, and he's reflecting on contemporary politics. Mm-hmm. Then the second part is reflecting on contemporary science and all the breakthroughs that are happening in science. And then the last section is kind of aspirational and imagining a better possible world. Yeah. And that sort of mirrors the 3 parts in our own book, where we're like, how did we end up in this terrible world? What are all the interesting things that are happening that we make us understand the world scientifically differently? And then what can we actually do differently in the world?
Auden himself was the son of a doctor, and the grandson of vicars. So he kind of was always interested in both science and kind of these bigger metaphysical questions. But I think these lines in particular, when they summarize the book so well, and the reason we chose to both use these lines as the epigraph for the book and then take one of the lines as the title, Children of a Modest Star, is he just kind of so sums up our central point, which is that we are just clinging to the skirts of a planet. Right, that we are simply one part of this planetary system. That here we are, just orbiting the sun, and that's really who we are. And then he references the scientist Sitter, the physicist who had kind of discovered that in fact the universe was swelling, as he says, that we're just this tiny part within this universe that is both infinite and expanding, and to really come to grips with what that means, and what we do in this book is come to grips with what that means politically, or really institutionally, from a governance perspective. It just so well summarizes the challenge that we try and take up in the book, and he did it in more beautiful language than we could. So why not just steal it?
I think the other thing that is really great about this particular passage from our point of view is he talks about modesty. So on the one hand, realizing that we are just a speck on a third rock floating around a sun that's one of a million stars in this galaxy that's one of a million galaxies in the world, that's an incredibly modest, humbling kind of realization, right? And yet he also in the same breath calls for us to stretch our imagination, to try to not take that as something that allows us to be intimidated and not imagine greater possibilities. It's a call to action to try to imagine, a better world that takes into account the humbling fact of our embeddedness on this one planet.
Right. So he ends the lines that we quote by saying that we have to learn to live according to our station. Now, and we kind of take this to be 2 things, right? On the one hand, we have to live according to our station as children of a modest star, that we're simply one species on one planet in this universe. But on the other hand, we now know, the science is now clear that this is the Anthropocene. This is the age in which human beings have made an indelible mark on this planet. So on the one hand, we're children of a modest star in that we're kind of this speck, this tiny bit. But on the other hand, sometimes children overtake their parents, right? And we're kind of in this moment where human beings are the driving force of so many systems that are really changing the planet in incalculable ways, in ways that will have a lasting impact for a very long time. And so coming to live according to our station also means taking that into account, that modernity has produced children that are quite strong and are having a lasting impact. So how do we both deal with that modestly, but take into account this kind of, it's like kids who, they don't know their own strength and can end up, actually hurting you, as my kid sometimes does. This is the quandary in which we find ourselves, and in which we need to kind of figure a way that we think you have to govern your way out of. This isn't about individual behavior. This isn't about individual choices. Governance is about how do we live collectively. How do we live collectively on this planet that orbits a modest star? That's the challenge.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing is in the whole poem, and also in this specific passage in the poem, is that modern technology and science has disclosed to us two things simultaneously. One is what an infinitesimal speck we are within the grand scheme of things.
In the swelling universe.
In the swelling universe, right? And even on the biosphere, like, macrofauna is really just a footnote to bacteria in terms of the history of life on this planet, right? So on the one hand, technoscience has revealed the modesty of our position. On the other hand, technoscience has also revealed that humans are disrupting the biogeochemical systems of the planet that we rely on to survive.
Right.
And thirdly, is actually creating potentially the tools we need in order to be able to manage those things effectively. And those tools are both technological tools in the sense of physical technology, but also administrative technology and governance technologies. And so the passage actually says that the same science that reveals our smallness also and reveals our importance also presents an opportunity for us to actually become a positive force rather than just a disruptive force. So all of that, I think, is embedded in this one passage.
That's right.